Hey guys, this is going to be a review comparing various different winter motorcycle gloves I've purchased. These gloves all have a waterproof membrane, they all have some sort of insulation, and they all have some sort of safety rating. And they range from £40 to £120. So let's go through it, let's explain the differences, see what I think of each of them and what my recommendation would be and what I think is the best value for money glove here. So first we have the Dainese Plaza 3 D-Dry gloves. I purchased these for about £30 I think. Right now they're on sale for £42 and they retail for £70. Although I very rarely see them actually go for £70, that's just their MSRP. But most of the time they're on discount. So let's put them on and go over them. So these are a very basic winter glove from Dainese. I think it's the cheapest waterproof glove they sell actually. And yeah, they're super basic. They're C level 1 rated. They've got a bunch of insulation inside. I'm not sure what the insulation is. I couldn't find that online. So I don't know how many grams or what kind of insulation it is. But it feels fairly substantial. I haven't had any problems with it. And it has the D-Dry membrane. And it has a touchscreen on the fingers as well. So what do I like about this glove? It's just cheap. That's the main thing. It's really cheap. I think it's pretty good value for money. If you can get it on discount for, I'd say about £40, yeah, then it's pretty good value for money. I definitely wouldn't pay the retail price of £70 for this, but it does the job and it's fine for commuting. And if you're not going to be riding your bike often in the rain and you just need it for every once in a while, I think these are fine. My main problems with it is there's no real protection to it. There's no hard protection anywhere. There's no leather anywhere. There's no soft padding anywhere. This here is just to help your grip. There's no padding underneath that. And single strap wrist closure as well, which I don't like as much. They're less safe and you get less of a seal between your jacket and your glove. But the main thing I don't like about these gloves is I think because of all the insulation, and insulation is quite thick, they aren't very form-fitting. So there's a lot of free play between your throttle and your glove. Mainly here, there's a lot of play. I'm going to try demonstrate that here, but you can see there's a lot of free play. And you can imagine when you're going on your throttle, there's going to be a bit of a lag between what you're doing and when your throttle actually starts moving. So there's going to be a bit of free play between your hand and between the throttle because of that insulation in the gloves. So they're super basic, super cheap. They're not the best, but they're alright. Honestly, the way I'd see them is they're just ski gloves that pass the C1 motorcycle rating. So that means they are rated for motorcycle riding and they meet the minimum requirements. But these gloves are all C1, and I think the glove being C1 doesn't mean that much, right? Because there's a lot of variance in C1 gloves and how safe they actually are. But yeah, it meets the minimum motorcycle requirements and it's pretty cheap. It gets the job done. So yeah, I think if you're on a budget, I quite like these and I can recommend them. Just keep in mind you're going to have quite a lot of free play between your glove and the throttle. Next we have the Alpinestars Crestone Gore-Tex gloves. So I purchased these for £75 and they retail for £95. These have 80 grams of Primaloft silver insulation inside of them and they have a Gore-Tex membrane. So all of these gloves, apart from the Dainese, have Gore-Tex membranes in them. I love Gore-Tex. It's the industry standard for waterproofing. I think it's great. And you get that Gore-Tex guarantee where if you buy a Gore-Tex product and it ends up leaking water, you can return that to Gore-Tex and they'll replace it for you free of charge. So yeah, really happy about that. So let's put the glove on and go over its features. So you can see the glove has a leather palm. I really like that. It's got some textile on the back and around the cuff. It's got some foam padding on the thumb and on the fingers. You can see there's a tiny little bit of foam padding here. It's got this hard knuckle here, which I like. A bit of foam padding on the palm as well. This isn't a palm slider. It's not plastic. It's just a bit of extra foam, which is, it's alright. It's got a single cuff wrist closure, but it's got this elasticated bit here, which is quite nice. And it's got a little reflective strip here. So what do I like about these gloves? Well, I'm just going to say I really love these gloves. I've tried them out and I really love them. And what I like about them is they've put all the insulation in the back of the glove. So all the insulation is over here and around the sides. There's no insulation on the palm. It's just it's just leather. Okay, there is a tiny bit of insulation. There's a very tiny bit of insulation, but it's minimal. The insulation on the palm is very, very minimal. There's next to none. And, you know, why do I like that? You'd think that'd be a bad thing. Oh, I don't want my palms to get cold. Well, the first thing is, your palms aren't really going to get cold. What usually gets cold is the outer bit of your glove, because your palms are curled in and around your throttle. So it's the outer bit of your hand that's exposed to all the wind and all the rain. The other thing is, if you have heated gloves, which I'd highly recommend, I think if you're going to do a lot of miles in the rain or in the cold, you need heated grips. They make such a big difference. If you have heated grips, the palm's going to let a lot more heat through because there's no insulation in there, or if there is, it's very, very little insulation. So I think that's actually going to keep your hand warmer than if you had more insulation in the palm. And the other thing is, you don't get any throttle lag, you don't get any free play between your hand and the throttle. There's no free play between your hand and the throttle. Honestly, using these, they're almost as good as summer gloves. You get almost as good a feel with these as you would with summer gloves. They're amazing, they're great. I really love them. As well, the touchscreening, they've got touchscreen here. All of these gloves are touchscreen, by the way. They're all touchscreen compatible. But I think on these gloves, it's been really well designed. So you can see here, it's like extends all the way to the tip of your finger, and the same on the thumb. On the thumb, it's just on the tip of your finger, which I love, right? Because you use your phone like this, and I've tested it on my phone, like you tap your phone, right? I've tested it on my phone, it works great. What some other gloves will do is they'll only have touchscreening here, but nobody uses their phone like this. So the touchscreen on these gloves is amazing. It actually works really well. I've had the touchscreen on these winter gloves work better than some summer gloves, which is crazy to think. So yeah, they fit really well. You don't have any free play on the throttle. To be honest, they feel almost as good as using summer gloves, like I said. And I think the protection is good. You get the hard knuckle, you get the leather on the palm, and you get a bit of extra foam padding. I think these are great gloves, and I think they're really worth the money. If you can get them for £75, that's great. I think it's worth it. If you have to pay the full price of £95, I still think they're worth it. I think these are really good. These are some of the best winter gloves I've used, only to be topped by the WT-4, which we'll get onto next. As for the cons, there's very few cons to these gloves. I guess they're not the most insulated gloves. I think for my purposes, the insulation's enough. It's pretty good, but you can get gloves with more insulation, as some of the gloves later on will have. The other thing, it's single wrist strap. It only has a single wrist strap closure, which I prefer double wrist strap closure. It's safer. It means if you go into a crash, the glove's less likely to slide off your hand if you're sliding on concrete. And it gives you a better seal. You know, if you have a double wrist strap closure, you have more cuff length, and it gives you a better seal between your jacket and between your gloves. Because you have quite a lot of cuff with this, but there's still, you know, there's the off chance, like look here, as I turn my hand to open the throttle, you get a bit of open space here. It's not a huge thing, but yeah, those would be the cons for this glove. Next, we have the Alpinestars WT-4 Gore-Tex glove. This I purchased for £87, and its MSRP is £110. It has the same 80 grams of Primaloft silver insulation, and it also has a Gore-Tex membrane. And these gloves are essentially the same as the Crestone. So what's the difference? Well, they've built on the Crestone and just made it better. They've added a few more features to it, and I think they've just made it overall better. So let's put the glove on and go over what those features are. So instead of going over every single little feature of this glove, because it is almost identical to the Crestone, I'm just going to point out what the differences are and why this is better than the Crestone. First off, you can see you've got a little bit of extra leather. You've got some leather on the back of the hand. I don't think it's super important. It looks cool, but I don't think it's super important because you've already got a hard knuckle there. So if you're sliding, you're going to be sliding on that plastic anyway. So I don't think the extra bit of leather does much, but it's nice to have. I'm not complaining. You also get a little bit of extra leather in the palm here. You can see just a, sorry, not on the palm, on the thumb, just a tiny bit of extra leather. I don't think it's a super big deal. The other thing is you get some, I believe this is a fake leather here. But that's just to provide a bit of extra grip on the throttle, which is really nice. I like that. I think it, you know, I think it helps. The other thing is they've got some small cutouts here, and I really like these cutouts, and you can feel that it just puts less pressure on your fingers when you curl your hand, it puts less pressure. It's just a lot nicer. It helps with dexterity. I think it's a nice feature. I really like it. And the other main difference, this is the main difference. You get a longer cuff with double wrist strap closure. I really like double wrist strap closure. You get a better seal between your jacket and your glove. It's going to help keep rain out. It's going to help keep the cold out. And this is a lot safer because it's held much more tightly to your hand. And if you go into a crash and you're sliding, it's a lot harder for this to slip off. You can see I'm pulling on it, but I can't get it to slip off. It's a lot harder for this glove to slip off than it would be for just a single wrist strap closure. So I think it's safer. And I really like the double wrist strap closure. I think it's better for winter riding. It's going to keep you warmer. It's going to keep you drier. And I think it's safer. That's the main difference with these gloves. And the slightly longer cuff. As you can see here, the cuff is slightly longer. It's not substantially different, but it's a little bit longer and it helps. It's nicer. So these gloves retail for about £15 more than the Crestone. So if you're a bit budget conscious and the features I've mentioned, like the extra leather, the double wrist strap closure, and the little cutouts here don't mean much to you, then sure, buy the Crestone. It's a bit more budget friendly, but I think the £15 extra to upgrade to the WT-4 just makes sense. I think you're getting your money's worth, and I really like these gloves. I think they're great. These are my favorite gloves here on this table. As for the cons, I don't really have much to say. I've used them and I really enjoy them. The only con I would say is, I guess, they don't have the most insulation. I think the insulation is pretty good. Like I said, 80 grams of Primaloft silver, mainly on the back of the hand. But if you're going sub-zero, your hands will get cold unless you have heated grips. I'm a big advocate for heated grips. But yeah, but they will work up to about 0 degrees. Approaching 0 degrees, your hands are going to get a little bit cold. But they work really well for me. These work great. That's the only con I'd have to say. If you're riding through really extreme conditions, these might not be enough. But for what I use them for, they work great. Yeah, I love them. Next we have the Alpinestars WR-1 V2 Gore-Tex gloves. A bit of a mouthful. These I purchased for £100 and they retail for £150. They have Primaloft silver insulation, 80 grams in the top, and Primaloft gold insulation, 60 grams in the palm. So let's put them on and see how they fit. And as well, of course, they have that Gore-Tex membrane. Okay, let's go over these gloves features first. So, like I said, they've got 60 grams of Primaloft gold in the palm and 80 grams of Primaloft silver in the top. Primaloft gold is just a little bit warmer than silver, and I think that's why they went for gold in the palm, because they can put a little bit less insulation in there while still keeping it as warm or even warmer. So some features of this glove: it's got loads of leather. It's mainly leather construction. You've got loads of leather around the back. The fingers are textile. You've got some leather on this finger and this finger though. You've got loads of leather on the palm, and there's a little bit of textile here just to help with stretch. You've got some fake leather here to help your grip. You've got this little Nucleon thing here. It's not a palm slider. It's not hard plastic. It's just some sort of foam or some sort of rubber underneath. You know, it's nice to have, but I would prefer a palm slider. But most of these gloves don't have palm sliders, which is a shame. But yeah, it's nice to have. You've got some extra padding here, and you've got hard knuckles, of course. A little bit of accordion stretch panel here, and you've got a finger bridge here as well. So that's all the features of this glove. So let's start with the pros. The pros of this glove: I think you're getting quite a lot of leather. If you like that, you get a lot of leather all around the glove, which is, you know, it helps make the glove more robust. It helps make it safer, which is nice. The other thing is you got the finger bridge here, which most gloves don't have. The gloves are touchscreen as well, and you have a little bit of reinforcement around the pinky, which is nice to see. So yeah, I think overall the protection on these gloves is quite good, and you're getting quite a lot of insulation. You know, 80 grams of Primaloft silver and 60 grams of Primaloft gold. I think that's pretty substantial. That's quite good. You're getting a lot of insulation in these, and they're Gore-Tex as well. Going over the cons of this glove, and there's a lot. I really don't like these gloves. You know, I tried to be positive first. You know, I tried to go over all the pros. But yeah, let's get into the cons. The first thing, the big one, they just don't fit me. These are size small. All of these gloves are size small. And for some reason, these have really, really weird fitment. And I don't think I need to downsize, because if I downsize, they won't fit me at all. It's mainly the wrist strap closure. I've had this problem before. I believe on the Alpinestars SP2, it was the exact same problem where the wrist strap is way too large. It's like, it's comedically large for a size small. You can see how many fingers I'm fitting underneath. So it's basically doing nothing. And so I want it about this tight, right? That's what works for me. That's what's reasonable. But I don't know how well I can show this, but you can see there's not enough hook. The hook doesn't go far enough, the Velcro hooks. So I can't do that. This is the best I can do. Like that, and it's barely holding on, and I can stick a bunch of fingers in there. So this is rubbish. I would say this isn't safe, you know, because what that means now is if I go into a slide, with just a bit of force from me pulling the glove off, it slides off like that. So it's rubbish. These aren't safe for me. They don't work for me. So for that reason, I can't recommend them if you have size small hands. So I don't know if this problem extends into the medium or large. So there's two possibilities. Either they've mucked up the wrist closure for all the gloves and it's way too big for all sizes, or they've just reused the exact same wrist strap between all sizes. So this might work well for mediums and larges, but it just does not work for small. So if you have small hands, I can't recommend this. If you're size small, stay away from it. If you're size medium or large, I honestly don't know. I wish I could tell you, but I don't know. This wrist closure here is not great as well. Like, let me try demonstrate. You just see how it's a bit awkward with how it closes. I don't know if I'm showing that well, but yeah, you can see it's not a big deal. It works, but it's just one of those things. It makes more sense if you try it out. But yeah, it's not just the fitment with the wrist strap here. The fingers are really weird sizes for me. So if I make sure the glove's properly on, these two fingers fit well. The pinky, there's a little bit of play. The index finger, there's a lot of free space. And that's not insulation, by the way. That's just an air gap. Same thing with the thumb. Yeah, that's not great. The fitment is just not great. I find as well, I don't know what it is with these gloves. They're super bulky. It might just be all the leather. It might be all that leather with the textile and the membrane and the insulation all adding up, where they just don't feel nice to use it. The dexterity is quite bad. They just feel really clunky, really bulky. I don't like that. The finger bridge as well, it's super low down. I can't complain about that too much though, since most gloves don't have finger bridges, but you can see how much I can separate my fingers. I would prefer if it was a bit higher up, and that just keeps you safer when you're going down in the slide, so your pinky doesn't come off. Also the insulation in the palm, I would just prefer if it didn't have insulation in the palm personally, because you can see, let me try to demonstrate. It's really hard to demonstrate on camera, but you do get quite a bit of throttle free play with these gloves. I like that they've put less insulation in the palm and more in the back. I think that makes sense, but just something I would prefer not to have. My main complaint with these gloves is the fitment's really poor. You're getting quite a lot of insulation for the money, so if that's what you're looking for, you can try them out and see if they fit you, but the wrist strap fitment's poor, the finger fitment's poor, where it's like uneven. It's these fingers fit me, these don't. So I think I don't think it's I have the wrong size. I think this glove just doesn't fit my hand, and it just feels really bulky and really it feels clunky to wear. I don't know how to describe it. You just get really poor dexterity. Yeah, I'm not a fan. Not a fan of these gloves. Sorry. Yeah, but these are not my favorite. So yeah, if you're size small, I can't recommend these. If you're size medium and large, I still wouldn't really recommend them. But if you really want them for some reason, you can give them a try, see if they fit you. Alright, next we have the Alpinestars WR-X Gore-Tex gloves. I purchased these for £115. They retail for £145. They have 133 grams of Primaloft gold insulation, which I think that makes them the most insulated gloves on this table. So these have the best insulation on them. And of course, the Gore-Tex membrane. So let's put them on and go over the features. So yeah, going over the features of these gloves, they have a mostly leather palm with a bit of textile for stretch here. They've got some foam padding here. Again, it's not a plastic palm slider, but the foam padding feels pretty substantial. It feels pretty bulky, which is nice. A little bit of fake leather here just to help the grip. They are touchscreen like the rest of the gloves. They've got some sick looking hard knuckles here as well. I really dig the look of this glove, by the way. I think it's because of the ripstop fabric. So yeah, it's got ripstop fabric on the back, which is supposed to be super durable, super robust. You can see a tiny little bit of foam padding here, just on these two fingers. A little bit of reinforcement here for the pinky, which is nice. It's not leather, it's just textile, but I guess it's nice to have. And you've got the double wrist strap closure. So yeah, let's go over what I like about these gloves. First off, they're the most insulated. 133 grams of PrimaLoft gold insulation. So if you need something for seriously cold weather, these would be my best recommendation. They are the most insulated. They feel the most substantial. Next, the fitment. I think they fit really well. The wrist straps fit well. I like the fact that it's got a double wrist strap as well. All the fingers fit well. There's very little free play in my fingers. It does have insulation in the palm, and you do get a bit of free play when you're going on the throttle, but it's not the worst. I've seen worse. It's not great either. It's just okay. But that's to be expected with something with such heavy insulation. I think the safety features are good. I like this bit of foam here. I like that it's got leather on the palm. I like the ripstop fabric. I like the hard knuckles. So I feel like it's going to be pretty safe if you go down in a crash. Also, I just think it looks dope. The main merits I have of this glove is just the insulation feels great. They're honestly the warmest feeling gloves. The insulation feels great and the fitment's great. So I really like them for those reasons. But I do have some complaints, and I'll go into that now. So the cons of the glove, first off, it's got insulation in the palm, which like I've said before, I'm genuinely not a fan of. I prefer no insulation in the palm because that lets more heat through the grips, and it means you have no free play between your hand and the throttle. So with these gloves, when you go down on the throttle, you're going to feel a bit of free play between your hand and the throttle, and you just don't get that instant response, and it's not as great. It kind of feels like wearing ski gloves. You know, they feel like ski gloves, but really robust ski gloves. So I feel like if you go down in a crash, they're going to hold up. My main complaint with these gloves, so just putting them on now, like this, they feel great. But what I found out is when I went on my bike and I tested them out, and I went on the throttle, you're holding your hands in a position like this for a while, right? You've got them all clawed up. You've got your hand in a fist like that, kind of. And what I found, for some reason, I was getting a lot of pressure on my pinky. To the point where after riding for a while, my pinky started going numb because I think the gloves were cutting off blood flow to my pinky. So I actually felt colder in these gloves than the WT-4, even though these have substantially more insulation, just because I was getting that weird pressure in my pinky. I don't know why it is. It might be because of that extra bit of fabric here. Probably not. Actually, I don't know what it is. It's just because of how they're designed, I guess. But I was getting extra pressure in my pinky. It didn't feel great. Over time, I think it was cutting off blood flow, and my hands just started to feel numb. My pinky felt numb. My hands started getting cold. I really didn't like it, and it was just uncomfortable. It was very uncomfortable over a long period of time, which kind of sucks, because apart from that, the fitment is great for these gloves. And I don't think it's something that will break in as well, because they are mostly textile gloves, so I don't think you can break them in to get past that. So that really sucks, because I really like these gloves, but I need to point out that I don't know if you guys will have this problem. You might not if you're built slightly different, but when I curled my hands in on the throttle, I'd get a lot of bad pressure here, and you start cutting off blood flow, and it felt a little bit uncomfortable, and my hands would start getting cold and numb. So yeah, I just have to point that out. Apart from that, I really like the gloves. It's just mainly the throttle free play and this weird pressure I'm getting in my pinky when I've wrapped it around the throttle. It sounds like a minor complaint, but if you're holding this position for hours on hours, it's going to be terrible. So they don't work for me, but they have so many merits that I just say, you know, try them out if you really want to, but they're not great for me with the bad pressure in the pinky and the throttle free play. Also, I have something else to mention with these gloves as well. I have one other minor con to bring up. So if you just give me a second, let me go grab the other glove and show you. This is the left glove, and it's got this little Alpinestars logo here, but it's like peeling off. And I know this is minor, but it just kind of sucks because these are brand new gloves and it's just peeling off like that. Yeah, it's not great. Just a warning for these gloves, some of these graphics might just peel off over time because this one already is. They might not. I might have just got dud. I don't know. But yeah, I just felt like I should mention that. And finally, we have the Alpinestars WR-2 V2 Gore-Tex mixed gloves, which I purchased for £120 and they retail for £150 MSRP. They have 80 grams of Primaloft silver insulation in the top of the hand. So, these are the most expensive gloves. Does that mean they're the best? Well, we're about to find out. Also, I believe these are somehow related to the WR-1 V2, which are these. So this is the WR-1 V2, this is the WR-2 V2. Just because of the similar naming convention, if you look at them, they look really similar. They have similar styling. I'm assuming this is the newer one, but yeah, let's just get into it. Let's put the glove on. So going over the features of this glove, it has a mostly leather palm with a little bit of textile for stretch here. It's got some fake leather reinforcements here. I say reinforcements, they're not for reinforcement, they're just to help you get a bit of grip on the throttle, which is nice. It's mostly, it's got quite a bit of leather on the back. It's got some textile, mostly textile around the cuff and textile on the fingers. It's got this hard knuckle here, which I'm pretty sure is plastic. It feels like plastic underneath. I'm pretty sure it's plastic. It's just got this weird weave over it. I don't know what that is. I guess it looks sort of cool. Yeah, but yeah, it's got that. And it's got that same thing here. This time it's got padding underneath. That's not plastic. It's got some padding on the backs of these fingers. And it's got a finger bridge. It also has a plastic palm slider over here. And it's got double wrist strap closure. All the insulation is in the back of the palm. I'm pretty sure there's very little insulation actually in the palm. So it's 80 grams of Primaloft silver at the top of the hand. And then over here, it's pretty much just leather with a tiny bit of insulation lining you can feel inside the glove, but it's very minimal. So yeah, going over what I like about these gloves. First off, I think these, in theory, I'll say why. I'm saying in theory later. I'll explain that later. But in theory, these have the most protection. They have a finger bridge here, which what I like about this one as well is it's a lot higher than the finger bridge on the WT1, or sorry, the WR1, which I'm a fan of that. It's got plastic palm slider. I love to see these. I think all gloves should have plastic palm sliders. They help a lot. What it means is if you go down into a crash and you're sliding on the concrete, there's less of a chance of your wrist catching onto the ground as you slide and then, you know, having your wrist break or whatever horrible things may happen. The safety features are great. Palm slider, finger bridge, hard knuckles, loads of leather all around the glove. The other thing as well, I like the fact that there's no insulation in the palm. What that means is you're going to get better heat if you're using heated grips. You're going to get better heating from those heated grips. And you have very little free play in the throttle. So, like, I'm just trying to show now, but you can see there's very little, there's very little free play, very little movement in the hand. So you're going to get direct feel on the throttle, which is quite nice. The dexterity is okay. It's not the best, but it's alright. It's just okay. It's okay. What do I not like about these gloves? It's the exact same problem as the WR1. This cuff does not fit me, this wrist strap here. So that's how tight I want it, but you can see I don't have enough hooks on the Velcro for that. Doesn't work. So really, this is the best I can get it, and even then, it's on the verge of coming off. So if I put it down properly, look at that, I can fit all my fingers underneath. So this is useless. This bit here is basically useless for me. It might as well not be there. And this one's okay, but I don't think that's good enough, just having that keeping your glove on you. If you go down in a crash, look here, I think I can get these to slide off just by pulling on them. Yep, there you go. So if you go down in a crash, there's a good chance this glove might just slide off, which, you know, you have all these safety features. You have the palm slider, the finger bridge, but then if your glove just slides off, it doesn't mean anything. So yeah, that's not great. I'm not a fan of that. Let me put the glove on again just to demonstrate a few other things, a few other problems I have with the glove. So I've got this problem again where the finger fitment's weird. Like I've got, you see that's just air in there, so these fingers are too long. The thumb's okay, but the pinky and the index are too long. These ones are okay. It's just weird. And I don't know why, because all the other gloves fit me. These are size small, these are size small, these are size small. These are all size small Alpinestars and they fit me perfectly. It's just these two fit terribly, and I don't know why that is. So yeah, I can't recommend it if you have size small. I don't know if these problems fix themselves as you size up. Maybe the size medium and the size large fit well. But yeah, another thing, I don't think the dexterity is great on these gloves. It's just, there's a bit of, they don't feel very nimble and they feel a bit clunky. It's probably because of all the leather. It's because you have loads of leather on these gloves, which, you know, it's nice because it's more protection, but also you have loads of leather, insulation, a waterproof membrane, and textile all together, and it just kind of makes it clunky. I don't know. I don't think they were designed particularly well. I'm not a fan of these gloves, mainly just because they don't fit. The fitment's really poor for me. So if the fitment works for you, then go for them. But even then, I wouldn't recommend them because I don't think they're good value for money. Just going off retail price, not the discounted price I bought these for. These gloves are £150 for 80 grams of Primaloft insulation on the top and a leather palm and a Gore-Tex membrane. These gloves retail for £110 for 80 grams of Primaloft insulation on the top, the Gore-Tex membrane and the leather palm. So they provide pretty much the same weather resistance. These fit much better, they're much more comfortable, they have much better dexterity, and yet they're cheaper. And what are you getting for that extra money? For that extra £40 these cost, what are you getting? I guess the palm slider and the finger bridge? Which, look, I like the palm slider, I like the finger bridge, but it doesn't make up for all the other drawbacks of these gloves. So yeah, I just can't recommend them. I don't think they're good value for money, and they just don't fit me well. So definitely, if you're a size small, I really can't recommend these. If you're a size medium or large, they might fit you, but I wouldn't count on it. Just because the proportions were all out of whack for me. It wasn't like I had to upsize or downsize these gloves. Like certain parts fit me, like these two fingers fit me, these two didn't. So I don't know. I understand people's hands come in different shapes and sizes, so it might fit you, but still, I don't really recommend these gloves. So now I'm going to rank all the gloves from worst to best, explaining why I've put the gloves there, who I'd recommend the glove for, and if I think it's good value for money. So just doing a little overview and saying what my recommendations would be. So this is my order for the rankings from the worst to best. The Alpinestars WR-1 V2 gloves, they're at the bottom, mainly because the fitment was awful. It just didn't work for me. They felt very clunky, they felt very bulky. The fitment was awful. The wrist strap just did not work at all for me. It was comedically large. And they're the most expensive as well, along with the WR2. They retail for £150, so I really don't think they're worth the money. But if these gloves end up fitting for you and you find them on discount and you really want to get them for some reason, who would I recommend them for? Well, they have some pretty good installations. They have 80 grams of Primaloft silver on the top, 60 grams of Primaloft gold on the palm. So, you know, the insulation's pretty good. And if you're going through some extreme weather riding, maybe get them if you really, really want to. But then I just recommend the WR-X more. Next, we have the Alpinestars WR-2 V2. It's all the same problems. The fitment was terrible. The wrist strap just didn't work. It was way too large for a size small. Like I've said before, I don't know if this problem scales up to medium and large gloves, but if you have size small hands and you buy size small gloves and size small typically fits you, just stay away from these. The fitment is terrible. Again, they're not worth the £150, and I think it's even harder to justify the £150 for these gloves because they only have 80 grams of Primaloft silver at the top, which is the same as the Crestone and the WT-4, which are substantially cheaper. So it just doesn't make sense for me. Who is this glove for? Well, I wouldn't recommend it, but if you really want it for some reason and it does fit you, I think it has quite a lot of safety features. It has the palm slider, it has the knuckle protectors, and it has the finger bridge. So if you're concerned with safety and these do end up fitting you, I still wouldn't recommend them, but that's who I'd say these gloves are for. Next, we have the Dainese Plaza Free D-Dry gloves, and I would actually recommend these gloves. So they're super basic, that's why they're, down low here, but they're super basic gloves and you can get them for super cheap. If you can get them for £30 to £40, yeah, go get them. Because I understand most people they're not doing substantial miles in the cold weather or in the rain. They might just need to take their bike out every once in a while in the rain, and these are nice to have. They're nice. You can just chuck them in your bag in case you get caught in the rain. It's nice to have dry hands. They work. They will keep you dry and they will keep you warm. The problem is they just don't really provide any safety features, and you get all that free play in the palm, which I'm just not a fan of because it just makes you feel like you're less in control of the bike. But I think they do have a purpose, and I would recommend them for someone that's on a budget and just wants a spare pair of gloves to keep them dry. Next, we have the Alpinestars WR-X gloves. I quite like these. I just had a problem with the pinky. That was the problem for me. When I'd curl my finger around the throttle, it just put bad pressure on my pinky. It cut off blood flow, and it just did not feel great. So that's why I can't put them any higher. That's why I can't put them at the top, although I have put them quite high. And that's because if you don't have that problem, if you just try them out and you don't get that problem, then I would recommend them. The insulation is really good. The safety features are good. It has hard knuckles, leather on the palm. So who would I recommend this for? If you're someone that's going to do a lot of riding through extreme weather, about 0 degrees or less, yeah, I'd recommend these simply because they have the most insulation. So if you don't have that problem with the pinky, then yeah, go for it. Next, I have the Alpinestars Crestone and then the Alpinestars WT-4. These are both at the top because they're essentially the same glove. I've put the WT-4 over the Crestone just because it has a few features that I went over before that makes it nicer. Mainly the double wrist strap closure, which I really like. But if you're on a budget or you find a Crestone on a discount, or maybe you just like a single wrist strap closure, because I understand it's more convenient, but I personally think it's a little less safer. But if you like that, then yeah, go for the Crestone. I think the Crestone are great gloves. The WT-4 just improve on the Crestone and make them even better. The fitment is amazing. They keep me really warm. I think that 80 grams of Primaloft silver, it does wonders for these gloves. You get really good throttle feel with these gloves. I can't describe to you how much dexterity and throttle feel you get with these gloves. All I can say is it's almost as good as a summer glove. You almost get as good feel on these as you do on a summer glove. I think the insulation is great and they're really smart with all the placements. I think the safety features are adequate. Leather palm, extra padding, and hard knuckles. I just think they're really great gloves. I think the insulation's good and the feel you get. That's the main thing with these gloves. That's what I want to emphasize. The feel you get on these gloves is amazing. You get really, really good feel on your throttle. It's almost like wearing summer gloves. That's how great it is. There's no delay between what your hand's doing and between the movement of your throttle. And that's quite rare for winter gloves. So yeah, I think the insulation is great. They're completely waterproof. They're really competitively priced. And the feel you get in them is amazing. So Alpinestars WT-4 Gore-Tex gloves, that would be my top pick. I highly recommend them. Anyone that's looking for winter motorcycle gloves, get the WT-4. I think they're amazing. If you're on a bit more of a budget, get the Crestone. They're still pretty good. If you're going for extreme weather riding, maybe get the WR-X. I had some problems with the fitment, but if that doesn't apply to you, they're pretty solid gloves. And if you're on a budget, get the Dainese Plaza free. And I cannot recommend the WR-1 and the WR-2. I just cannot recommend them at all. I'd say stay away from these gloves. They're not worth the money, and I think they're pretty poorly designed. They just don't fit well at all. But yeah, that's the review. If you found this informative, if you found it helpful, if you found it useful, please leave a like, subscribe. It means a lot to me and it really helps my channel grow. If you have any questions, drop me a comment and I will respond to every single comment. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you. Bye.